You're listening to SM Media. Welcome, folks, to the debut episode of the SM Media East of Scotland football show for 2024-2025. This is your home for all things East of Scotland for the upcoming season. And we thought for a bit of fun, we would open the show with our prediction show. It'll be me that takes the flak. It won't be any of the other guys. I'm perfectly okay with that. We are going to look at all four divisions. We're going to look a bit in detail, talk about the four leagues that's coming up. I think we're in for a really exciting season in the East of Scotland. We've got two very special guests, two of the best minds in East of Scotland for me, and it's a pleasure to have them both on the show. First of all, you might recognise them from last season. It's a pleasure to welcome back to the show Ryan Kelly.
Aye, yeah, delighted to be invited back on after the last performance, to be fair.
Yeah, you must have done well, because I don't really invite many people on twice, but you'll take that up with a lot of positives.
What a request you've had.
And it's an absolute pleasure to welcome making his debut appearance. I'm absolutely sure this won't be his one and only time on the show. A big fan of what he does. He provides me with a lot of help, especially with Bathgate Thistle. It's a pleasure to welcome Grant McKenzie.
Yes, good evening, folks. Whenever you're watching this, absolutely delighted to be on the show, Scott, and obviously Ryan as well. And yeah, hopefully that this is not just a debut, and there could be more appearances in the future. I'll try and make it.
I really hope so. I'm really looking forward to this. Obviously, this is always the podcast that I'm the least popular for at every point in the season. But I think a lot of people enjoy it and appreciate it. Gives a lot of people a lot of information that I think it's beneficial for everybody for the upcoming East of Scotland football season. But just a wee reflection, Ryan, on what we kind of saw last season. Obviously, Broxburn going up, a lot of really good sides kind of stating a claim, a lot of really good players playing at a level as well, a lot of really good players getting moves up to a higher level. East of Scotland's probably as good as it's ever been.
I can't disagree with that. I think last season, fortunate, there were some cracking games in all the divisions. Without wanting to step too far ahead, I think that when I was doing my research, obviously after I was told I was coming on, I thought, right, let's get all the homework. I'm a big fan of homework. I'm looking at the Division 1 for this year. And I know what you're asking me to do here later on, pick a top three, pick a bottom three. With that division, it's going to be very, very tricky. And in fact, with all the divisions, I think we touched on it towards the end of last season when we were talking about teams finding their level. It wasn't meant in a nasty way. It was genuinely, this is, I think, us now 5 years into this. And what you're finding now is teams have genuinely found their level. You look at all the leagues and you're struggling. You're going, well, they could do well. Oh, I'm not sure about them. Oh, you know what? And it's that for all the divisions now. So I reckon there'll be a lot more close games this year. I reckon there'll be even more goals, even more excitement for all the supporters to come along. And I hope that they do. I hope that they genuinely, and I'm grateful for podcasts like this to spread that word so that the clubs can benefit getting folk through the door.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the kind of main priority this season as well. Obviously, try and get more people to kind of keep an eye on the East of Scotland. So it's a really impressive league. Grant, there's a lot of sides, and this is the kind of thing I've found with the pyramid system in kind of recent years, and I think it is going to kind of come full flow this season. Ryan's right. There's a lot of sides finding the level. There's a lot of really competitive leagues in there. We've seen leagues in the past that kind of get title winners that run away with it. I don't think you've seen that this year. I think there's a lot of tight leagues, and I think there's a lot of good sides that are going to challenge each other.
Yeah, and I think we've seen in the third division over the last couple of seasons that there have been two or three clubs that have, last season, obviously West Calder and ourselves got off to great starts. Well, we got off to a great start. We had a lot of games postponed mid-season. West Calder got momentum. I think they won 8 games on the bounce, which took them above us. And they just had that little bit more momentum at the end of the season. But what I was going to say was, prior to that, the previous season, Bo'ness and Armadale ran away with that league. And really everyone else was playing catch-up. But I think as Ryan alluded to as well, as you go further up the leagues, Divisions 1 and 2 in particular, I think will be very hard to call in terms of positioning. There's not much between a lot of sides, but like you say, Scott, I think the quality of player that's now coming through from the development sides, under 20s, even from good amateur sides, coming into the pyramid system. We played a pre-season tournament, as you'll know, the Jim Walker Memorial Trophy, and we had we had St Rochs and we had Dundee North End.
Mm-hmm.
Now, both of these sides are at levels above Bathgate, but we competed against them, and it was an excellent tournament. So the point you're making is the East of Scotland has often been seen as the poor relation, and it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's as good as the other leagues, as you say.
It absolutely is, and I think that's one thing I'm really intrigued with this season is just seeing like how sides perform. Like I know, talking to a lot of people in a lot of different leagues, there are a lot of these sides that are really staking a claim to be amongst the side. We've obviously saw 3 years in a row the East of Scotland champions have been up into the Lowland League. I think Broxburn will do something similar to the Lithgow and Trinent. I spoke to the Broxburn assistant manager today. I've spoken to a few managers today, and they've all said the same thing. So I'm intrigued at how the East of Scotland's going to go up. The way we are going to work this, I don't know if you've seen previous prediction shows that we do on other leagues in the channel, but this is going to be very, very similar. We're going to do a top 3 and bottom 3 in terms of all 4 leagues. We're going to talk about all the leagues in terms of kind of sides that might go under the radar. So sides that might not be the top 3 or bottom 3, but might be in amongst it. And then at the end, we'll get a wee out of the wall prediction. We'll put them in the spot. And then at the end of the season, we'll get Ryan and Grant back on. And we'll make a wee bit of fun of ourselves because I don't think...
I'm on holiday that week, Scott, just to tell you.
I think I'll be absolutely astonished if we're all right. But I think that's the wonder of this league. I think there's so many sides that can compete. Right, Premier Division. Let's start with the top flight. Last year, obviously, we did have runaway winners in Broxburn. We have obviously 1 up, 1 down. Edinburgh Uni are coming down. 3 went up. St Andrews, Whitburn and Dunipace are in the league. Ryan, I'm not going to ask you to talk 3 and bottom 3 yet, but I just look at this top to bottom and it's stacked full of exciting teams.
Oh yeah, absolutely it is. I know you might not like me saying this, Grant, but it's great to see Whitburn back up in the top league, right where they belong. One of the sort of stalwarts of the Super League, going back to the junior years. Always a really nice place to go, Whitburn. Difficult place to go as well, and I'm delighted that they've made it back up to the top leagues. You look around Edinburgh University, what are they going to bring to the table? They did struggle in the Lowland League, but have they found their level, or have they got further down to go? Good performances last year. We mentioned at the end of the year show, Musselburgh, Jeanfield, Dunbar, Hutchie Vale. The teams coming up that you mentioned. What you find though is that the teams that come up tend to struggle, but I'm not too sure this year. I think your Whitburn will do well, St Andrews will do well, and who was the other one that came up? Dunipace. Again, Danny Smith, huge experienced manager. I can see those teams doing really well, and then you're kind of looking to say, well, who's going to struggle? And that's where I was telling you last night, I genuinely find that difficult because I'm going, they'll do well. They've done well in pre-season. I've actually got all the pre-season results. There you go. Hope you can see all of that there. That's all the leagues, every single pre-season.
That's why he's on, folks. That's why he's on. Nobody has knowledge like
that. I can justify. My notes are all lined up here as well, so I can justify these terrible predictions I'm about to make. It should be a great league. There's no doubt about that. And we might hopefully get a wee 2 minutes to talk about it as well. The Scottish Cup draw. It's just some cracking ties in that. I mean, that is mouth-watering. That absolutely brilliant. But
obviously, yourself in terms of Musselburgh, like looking at Musselburgh last season, obviously they really performed well. Looking at just kind of looking at the business they've done, I don't know a lot about the players they brought in. I imagine you'll be able to tell me that, but they should be fancying their chances.
Oh, for me, it's you don't want to say one horse race. That's really rude on the other teams that are there, but I look at it and go, Musselburgh should have went up last year. I 100% believe they should have went up last year. That's not taking anything away from Broxburn. I think we mentioned they'd done something like 25 points for losing positions. So from the sort of the mental side of the game, if you're chasing someone like that and you look at half time, for example, and maybe Broxburn were 2-0 down and you go, oh, we've got a chance here. Then you look at the final score, they won 3-2. So that was kind of one of those seasons where no matter how bad it looked for Broxburn at certain points, they managed to come back and get some points. And Musselburgh were 2-0 up there, and only managed a draw. So this year, without Broxburn there, I'm looking around, Scott. I'm looking around and going, who's going to step up? And a lot of clubs have made some great signings. You look at Dunbar, for example. I've brought in a few. You look at Dundonald made a few good signings. I watched Dundonald on Saturday, and they were really impressive. And then you don't know what. Or Jeanfield, another club that I've brought in a few as well. Yeah. You look around and go, well, who else is going to step up to the plate? I look at Musselburgh and I go, pretty much the same squad as last year. The sort of core, the sort of core of the team. I was impressed with the goalkeeper they brought in for Newton Grange. Liam McCarthy, I think it is. He's man of the match in the win against Whitehill on midweek, I think it was. They're going to be difficult. They've got a really good defence. They've got a exciting midfield and a tremendous strike force. And I'm looking around for faults, and I'm struggling to find any. Whether they can, whether complacency comes into it or not, I don't know. I just can't see past them, to be 100% honest with you. And I think they have to really go for it this year, throw everything at it.
Grant, it looks a cracking league on paper, as we say. Don't know a lot about Edinburgh Uni. We have, as I say, Musselburgh, looking at the league last season, there was only 9 points split, first and second and sixth. You had Musselburgh, Jeanfield, Dunbar, Hutchie, Sauchie. A lot of good sides. I think we're in for a cracking top flight this season.
Yeah, I think I absolutely agree with everything you've said and Ryan said here. I picked, and it was hard for me to pick here. It's interesting that Ryan picks up on Jeanfield Swifts and Dundonald. Dunbar would be in there. I've written Pennycook down as well.
Okay.
But Musselburgh, again, they've been there, so they would probably be my three out of these four sides, I think. It's hard to know though, because there's very little between, your Edinburgh Uni coming down, Dunbar, lots of good sides, and a lot depends on getting off to a good start and gaining that momentum, but also the point that Ryan picked up on there about how Broxburn managed to win games from losing positions, 25, winning games 3-2 and 2-1 down and scoring late goals and what have you. Once you've got that in your team, again, that's something you build on a roll as well, and it's hard to stop it sometimes. You're almost expecting it in a game. So I think, yeah, absolutely, from top to bottom, a terrific league, and but anyone could win it, really.
Ryan,
28 points. Sorry to come in there. 28 points Broxburn got from losing positions, and that tells you everything you need to know. You could argue, maybe they won the starting games well, but when they're at the top of the league, you're almost like a target. Teams will come out and go at you and can sneak out. It shows you it can break down teams, so they'll do well. I agree with your point you made earlier on. They'll not struggle in the Lowland League.
I don't think so.
They may be in for a similar season to what Lithgow, top half, I would say, comfortably. But I genuinely can't see past Musselburgh in the Premier League. I think they'll do well as well in the Scottish Cup and all other cups as well. I honestly think they'll fire through the season. They should do. They should do with the players they've got. Put that way, they really should be up there.
Right. So you've got Musselburgh in your top three, Ryan. Who's the other two?
How did you ken that?
I just have a rough guess. I did think you would have Musselburgh. I thought I was asking for the other two. Who makes up the top three? Remember, this doesn't need to be in order. I won't give you that brutality. But who do you think makes up the top three along with Musselburgh?
I'm looking at it based on pre-season games, and I'm looking at it on what I've seen last season. You have to say that Jeanfield will be up there.
Okay.
I think Jeanfield will be up there. I know they brought the boy in for Loncarty, Rhys Davis. Sorry, I haven't got any of the signings in front of me, but that's goals. And I think when you've got goal scorers on your side, that's where Musselburgh did well. That's where Broxburn did well last year as well. If you've got goals, you're guaranteed to do reasonably well. So I can see Jeanfield being up there. I'm looking at Dunbar's recruitment, and I'm thinking that Dunbar could be A wee surprise there. A lot of coaching changes there as well. I look at the pre-season, a couple of wins here and there. I know Trinent beat them, but they picked up a win at Cowdenbeath and at Newcastle on the weekend. I'm going to go Greenfield and Dunbar. But Musselburgh to win the league. I didn't mind putting that out there, honestly.
Okay, Grant, who makes up your top three?
I'm going to go Greenfield and Donald, and probably will be Musselburgh, to be fair. I had Pennycook written down there, but I see them being fourth, or right there or thereabouts, and we'll know because we've got them in that cup in a couple of weeks' time, or 3 weeks' time. And it'll always be a tough test. And a lot depends on, as Ryan says, about the recruitment and how quickly these players bed into new clubs. But a lot also depends on the momentum, particularly in a league where any team can beat the other team. Mm-hmm. And it just becomes a battle in a lot of games, and you have to have players that are there that can also do that side of the game well to get you your points. So that would be my kind of top three there.
I was sold anyway in Musselburgh, and I was waiting and being further sold to by Ryan. I think Musselburgh, what they did to Civil Service, I don't think many sides are going to be beating Civil Service 5-0 this season. To do that, I think is quite monumental. Do you say they've kept their core together? I was very impressed with them last season, and I think as well they're very well coached. I was worried about Greenfield when I saw that they'd sold Dale Robertson, but I think Rhys Davis is more than a capable replacement. Bringing him in from Lancarty, I think it's a tremendous bit of business. I think he's one of the standout players. They've got Jordan Northcott as well. Robbie's done a great job there as well. Obviously, has done very well to get the players in. I think Greenfield will make up one of the three spots as well. My final spot, I'm torn between three at the moment, and again, this is chopped and changed all day. I love the job Alan Moody's done at Hallabeath. Whether I think they're top three, I'm not sure, but I think in terms of the job he's done last season to get them even to finish seventh, I think I'm right in saying I think they won 9 in a row at one point last season. That was a phenomenal run, and they've done pretty well to keep their players intact. I think Dunbar, again, I've always thought Dunbar are capable of going up and challenging. The other one, I think Sauchie, again, another very well coached team. Don't know, again, enough about their kind of squad, what if they've kind of kept a lot of their core. I know one of their big players has went. I think he's went to a team in the Lowland League, if I remember correctly, but I would never rule out Sauchie. Again, they've done pretty well in the past few years. I'm going to put in Dunbar along with Musselburgh and Greenfield. I'm with Ryan and his three as well. But I think you could have Hallabeath, Sauchie, could be close as well. I would even give a mention to, as you say, I think I could see Dunny Pace doing pretty well as well with satellites of Sam Colley there. Keeping him, I think it's going to be massive. I really think this could be an interesting time. But I'm going to go Musselburgh, Greenfield and Dunbar. Right, the hard bit, Ryan, who's in the bottom three?
Yeah, hard bit. 100% hard bit. Now, as I say, I've trolled through all the pre-season stuff. I've trolled through, here you go, every individual team stat fill out. You can see all of these. Every single stat I've went through to come up with these predictions. So when they're all wrong, I'm ready for the flag. I'm not sure what to expect of Edinburgh Uni. Right, just based on last season's form, and then I look at what's happened to teams like Vale of Leithen who have come down and then went down and kept going down. I'm not saying that'll happen to them, but I think they will find it difficult because these teams are hungry. And listen, Edinburgh Uni, will come with a target. They're the big team for the Lowland League, and teams will want to beat them. And if they're not at it for the start, lost a bit of confidence, they could really struggle. Obviously, I hope they don't, because it's a great setup. If you've ever been along there, tremendous setup. Some really nice people behind the scenes there as well. But I've got them down as a potential for trouble. I've went with Lancarty, and I feel terrible about it. The reason being, I think when you lose your top scorer, or with Rhys Davis, and he goes to Greenfield, I think that's huge. Now, that doesn't mean that players won't step up. What you tend to sometimes find is that if a team's relying on a player, remember Kane Patterson was Indian Grange a few years ago, and when he left,
Yeah.
it's going to be terrible, it's going to be this and that. And what you found was that 2 or 3 players, stepped up to the plate and scored a lot of goals. So that could happen as well, but I'm only basing it on, the players that they've lost. The start they made last season, Scott, they lost their first 9 games. A remarkable effort to get 28 points from the remaining 21 games. So hats off there. But I can see then, just with everybody else, it's almost like a process of elimination. I'm going, well, I think you named them all there. I thought Musselburgh will do well, Penicuik will do well, Dunbar will do well, Salkey will do well. That kind of leaves who will struggle a wee bit. I think the teams that are coming up will do all right. My third one will be a bit of a surprise. And it's nothing against East Lothian either. It's Haddington. I think Haddington, I'm basing this on their pre-season games. All right, so we've had a 3-0 at Park, a 4-1 against Civil, a 5-3 at Berwick, which I've seen the second half of. Now, listen, you're playing top quality sides. Mm-hmm. We could go and play amateur sides and win 5, 6, 7, 8-0, and I would be saying, they're going to do well. But I do think Haddington might lost a lot of players as well. I noticed a few of their players weren't playing for Musselburgh actually on Saturday as well. So there's my bottom 3. But as I say, I hope that I'm proved wrong. I probably will be.
So you're going for Edinburgh United, Luncarty and Haddington. Grant, who makes up your bottom 3 for the Premier Division?
I agree with what Ryan said about Luncarty. Obviously, you've lost the top scorer. That's a big lose. And sometimes when you lose a player like that, that's a talisman. It's very difficult to not just replace them, but it also affects the players that play around about you too. It's very difficult to predict here. I'm not sure Glenrothes, I might be wrong here, but again, they don't maybe have, they've got the catchment area, but they maybe not be able to attract as many players as some of the other sides. I get where Ryan's coming from with Edinburgh Uni coming down, and again, it's this momentum thing once you start losing games and getting into that habit. But on the other side of the coin, Whitburn have had this rise for 2 seasons from the 3rd division up to the, into the Premier Division now. They're going from the 2nd division up to the Premier Division in 2 seasons. I think I might be wrong, and I hope I am, because obviously it's a good West Lothian club too. But I think this might just be a big ask for them. And as we said, lovely club and great people involved in it, great place. But no, I think, and it's really hard to say because the level at that top league, there is so little between all of these sides. And yeah, we could be sitting here in a few months' time saying, why did we pick this one? So yeah, Whitburn, Luncarty and Glenrothes for me.
Okay, I think I don't know enough about Edinburgh Uni. I remember having a conversation with Lee Sabaroni last season about Edinburgh Uni, and he had said obviously about trying to get them gelled together. I think it's very difficult with them to know enough about them until kind of September time, because that's obviously when they're back from kind of graduate stuff or whatever the case may be. I have got Edinburgh Uni down there. I think they could be another maybe Vela leaving in Oakley. I think they could just kind of drop down a couple before they find a level. Glenrothes are another one. I think they were very, very fortunate to stay up last season. I really didn't think they would stay up. I don't know. Again, take out Stuart Cargill, and have they got enough to stay in that league? I think it's going to be difficult for them, and I'm kind of swinging towards Haddington as well. I noticed that the boy is at Oromena has left. I don't know where he's went.
His name, Scott, because I wasn't going to attempt it.
I know he's left. I just don't know where he's went. Somebody can fill me in. Is it Musselburgh? Is it Musselburgh? He was a big player for them. I know they've kept the likes of Tom Davis and Lucas McGarry. They're 2 kind of big players for them. I was torn between Haddington and St Andrews United because, again, I think Robbie was the glue in that at St Andrews. I don't know what they're like now, but you look at the St Andrews goal scorers, they've got a lot of depth in terms of forward areas. They can keep that. I think they'll do pretty well, but Haddington for me would be the one that would sneak in. But again, it's so hard to predict. You've got sides. People are kind of saying like the likes of Penicuik, Tynecastle. I think they'll do pretty well this season. I don't think they'll be anywhere near relegation. I don't think that at all. I think they'll power on to where they were. Looking at kind of last season as well, I think Whitburn will do pretty well as well. I think they've got a lot of depth, a lot of talent. I really think this is a really interesting league. But for me, Edinburgh Uni, Glenrothes, and I'm just going to edge Haddington in there. I think it just depends if St Andrews have got the firepower and they can gel under the new manager. I think it's going to be very interesting. On to the first division, obviously, we've got a lot to get through here. This could be one of the leagues of the season in Scottish football. Get good teams coming down, the likes of Inverkeithing are coming down, along with Crossgates and Canoe. You've obviously got Bowness, Thornton, who were sensational last season in the second division. Edinburgh South are joining them as well. You've got some sides in there already doing pretty well. Camelin, Newton Grange, Heriot Watt, Leith, Blackburn, Arniston. There's good sides in there. Ryan, who makes up your top three in the first division?
Just quickly, I want to say something about Tynecastle. You mentioned Tynecastle there. Right, to be very quick. For me, that is how that's what the East of Scotland is all about. A team there that doesn't spend a huge amount of cash, if any. Right, they bring in players for the under-20s and aren't afraid to play them, and they have got some set up there, a great coaching team in there as well. I know you had Rob on the show as well.
Rob's brilliant.
So for me, Tynecastle, it would be good to see them do really well and show that is the way to go forward, whereas there is clubs that bring in a lot of players, as we've mentioned already. I just started mentioning that because you reminded me.
Yeah, definitely.
Division 1, I'm going for Bowness Athletic, as I'm guessing used to have as well. For me, it's an unstoppable juggernaut. That's a wee bit rude, but what a setup. You have to kind of applaud the recruitment. You have to applaud the way they're going about it. They are still bringing in young players as well, so it's not a case of just going for who's going to make a difference, who's going to score all the goals. I just can't see past them. Some good wins in pre-season against Burn Island and against East Stirling. 4-1 against East Stirling win. I don't think it'll be as easy as it's been for them in the past 2 years, but I think they've got enough up front, and again, I go with firepower, and they have got some strike force there. And that's with Ryan Robertson heading to Armadale as well. So that shows you the kind of firepower they've got. So they're up there. I'll go with Camelin. Okay. I think they have to go up this year. I think they really do. They've got a lot of investment going on there. I was looking at their hospitality and all that was opened over the weekend. Some setup, some transformation in that ground. You can see the work that's going on there. They can see what their targets are. In terms of third team, Scott, I'm just going to name every single team and then you can edit it out so that I'm accurate at the end of the season here, because I've left it blank, and the reason was I'm torn between Newton Grange, who I think will do well. And again, you look at a team that promotes from the under-20s, and there's a great example there. Again, a good management team in there that work hard. The pre-season has been a wee bit etchy. I was going to go with Preston. Again, good pre-season wins, 4-0 West Calder, 2-1 Hibs, 2-0 Haddington. And recruitment-wise, they brought in a few good players as well. Paul's done a really good job there as well. But listen, I could name any single team there, and I could give you a great reason for it. I want not Newton Grange or Preston.
Newton Grange or Preston.
Newton Grange Athletic. There you go. So join the two up.
Right, yeah. I think it is going to be very, very tough. Grant, who you got for top three in the first division?
Yeah, well, I agree with two of Ryan's choices. So Bowness is exactly as you said, Ryan. They're a juggernaut that seems impossible to stop. Just a brilliant setup, recruitment. Bringing in guys from their 20s as well. Camelin, for reasons that we discussed there. Alan Moore coming in as a manager midway through last season. Always produced. They've got the recruitment there too. And I guess I kind of looked at Newton Grange as one of the teams, but depending on the students that come in over the summer, I've always been impressed with the way Heriot Watt set up, and we have played them a couple of times. Played them pre-season last year. I think they've got a fantastic setup, and again, they've got great young players as well. But it will depend on, if people are studying and what that means for their team. But I'm going to stick them in there because of that. I think they've got a very progressive kind of setup. Very, very attacking as a team, good to watch, and would actually like to see them do quite well. But I think, they'd be edging it into third. I think Bo'ness and Camelin will probably be 1 and 2 for me.
I love the job Banji's done at Heriot Watt, and I don't know if they'll make top 3, but I always think they're one of the most exciting sides in the league, and I'm very much looking forward to see how they get on this season. With you, I spoke to Wally this week. I think Bo'ness are absolutely well on top, well within their rights to look to the stars, and I think the addition of Stephen Husband as well in the back room, I think it's a phenomenal bit of business just to get him in and get his experience in. He's a terrific coach. I really think that Bo'ness could be. I think if any side were to run away with the league this season, it'd be Bo'ness. And again, that's even with Ryan Robinson going to Armadale. But just kind of knowing, I think there's a lot of confidence there that they can do pretty well. Again, it's a kind of toss-up between about 4 or 5 sides for the other 2 spots. I've went with Newton Grange. I think Paul's done a really good job in there as well. I think they've had some really good business. I think they were very unlucky last season. I think they just ran out of games. And the other side, I think, could make a swift jump up, pun intended, is Inverkeithing. I think they were very unlucky last season. They won a cup last year. They were very, very unlucky last season. They're not any mugs necessarily sure what happened for them to go down, because they looked in a good position for most of the season. But I think I've got confidence in that coaching staff that they can get back up. Camelin could be up there as well. The money that's been spent. Alan Moore's a terrific coach. His experience will be key. Preston could be pretty good. You've got the likes of, obviously, I think a team like Arniston could do pretty well. I think the job Phil's done and there's really good. I think they could kick on this season. Leith have been good. That league there's so much depth in that league as well. You can literally see every team. Crossgates as well, I think, have done some good business. I'm going to go for Bo'ness, Newton Grange and Inverkeithing, and I think it's very, very interesting to see how that league develops. In terms of the other side of the table, Ryan, who's in the bottom 3, do you think?
Right. I went with Lochoa.
Okay.
That's a couple of years now where they've kind of been on the Great Escape, and I think eventually you just think, I think this year it might be too much to ask, just based on every single name that you've just read out there. And I'm going, I think that Lochoa there might be a season for them to struggle. I've added in Canola as well. That's just based on their pre-season games. I mean, I've got down here a 4-0 against Blairgowrie, a 5-1 defeat against Cumbernauld United. Now, look, I wasn't at these games. I've never been able to see them. They might have played, a group of 2-year-olds for all I know. I'm only judging it by what I see in black and white. I'm going to add in Edinburgh South.
Okay.
Just because I think it is a big step up. When you look at the teams that are there, a lot of the teams shouldn't be in that division. Right, your Newton Granges, your Camelins, you could argue your Bo'nesses as well. They should be in the league above. So it's, you're pushing teams down, and I think despite the run they went on, and I watched them a lot last season, especially towards the end of the season, that's my bottom 3. But very, very difficult.
Yeah, very tough league to predict. What about yourself, Grant? Where are you with the bottom?
Yeah, I think Ryan's just made a really good point that you've almost got a Premier Division and half a First Division that is really a Premier Division. So you've really got an elongated kind of bigger league. Now, I agree with Edinburgh South because that might be a very big step up for them. But the other two is based on, I've watched both of these sides in the last week, and I think Crossgates have a great setup, but it's an extremely young team.
Okay.
Based on what I saw at the weekend. Now, that might not be the team, but we spoke to the committee at half-time and we said, they had changed the personnel quite significantly. Obviously, there's a cost issue there as well. I think they've brought in younger and hungrier players, and I think some from their 20s as well. But in a league like the First Division, which is very competitive in full season pros, I think you're looking at struggling. And I actually think Blackburn are on a little bit of a downward trajectory as well. We played them last Monday. Good on the ball, good structure. And I'd like to see Blackburn do really well again as a West Lothian team, and we have a good, friendly relationship with them. But I do think that they were starting to plummet a little bit last year, and they don't have this, although they've got resources there, they might not have the same resources as some of the other clubs in the league. So I think they might struggle as well.
Yeah. I think there's a few sides in there that I'm kind of leaning towards. I think Loughor could struggle. I think they've always looked to me a side that might have to really kind of get some players in. I think with a lot of these sides, they seem to kind of get players in when they know they're in a sticky patch, and I think that could be a similar story here. I think Loughor could be one of those sides. They stayed up last season, but I think Ryan makes a good point. You can see them struggling this season. Another side that I think could struggle, that did okay last season, but I think they'll be obviously the kind of. I think a lot of these sides benefited from the kind of way that league operated, because again, like Loughor finished 13th with 32 points, and obviously they were 19 points clear of relegation, so they didn't really have much to fear, if that makes sense. I think this season is a lot different. You've got Whitehill as well, I think, could struggle. Whitehill, Loughor, and I can see Canoe. It just depends if they can get. I know there are a couple of players that have been injured long term that have come back in. Obviously, Ben Reagan, I think, has come back in. So hopefully he stays fit. He's been there a while. If they can get him back and he's back into his shape, I think he could kind of lead them a bit. But Whitehill, Loughor, and Canoe for me would be my bottom three. But I think that league's so competitive. It could really. I wouldn't be surprised if three teams I've said with the top three could be in the bottom three. That league is so competitive. We could be talking about a different league at the end of the season. Second division, start with Grant here, because this is obviously a speciality. Bathgate obviously have come straight up from third division, along with obviously West Calder, who really good duo. I was keeping an eye on it every week. Obviously only came down to 4 points, and then West Calder won the league by. Hart Hill coming up as well. Brilliant to see them up. There's good sides in this league as well. You've got the likes of sides that probably shouldn't be in the second division. You've got Armadale, you've got Dalkeith, you've got Easthouse's Lily, you've got Tweedmouth. There's good sides in there. Obviously, Vale of Leithen coming down. I think I'm right in saying it's a 15-team league. I'm not sure why they didn't just promote a fourth team in the third and 16, 16, 16, 10. But again, I don't run the league. What's your thoughts in the second division, and who do you see making the top three?
Well, you mentioned two of these teams there, and again, it's really, really hard to say, because Dalkeith probably should be coming up, given their kind of experience in that league. Easthouses, again, we played them twice last year, pre-season and in one of the cups. Like the way they play, like the way they're set up. Armadale, particularly now that Ryan Robertson's joined them to add to their firepower. I mean, they've no end of players, and again. They do promote their 20s as well. Great setup at the volley. I think they'll do really well. But the team that I'll think, and again, it's a bit like Heriot Watt, but I still think Stirling Uni, because, again, if you get the right level of student in who wants to play in the East of Scotland League, so hopefully these would be the three teams, but Dalkeith would probably be the fourth one. If you were choosing four, but for me, if Stirling Uni can get the right level of player in, and I know it's obviously they have 6 teams, they can get the right level player in to play in that league, is maybe just not quite good enough for their top team. They could be a force to be reckoned with.
The Bathgate, Armadale, Stirling Uni.
But yeah, I've gone for Easthouses obviously, because I'm not going to. I'd love Bathgate to be in the top 3 clearly, but I think for us it's consolidation for this year. For me, anyway.
Okay. Ryan, maybe yourself, top 3 in the second division.
Right, what you've said there, Grant, I can't disagree with much of that at all. Armadale, obviously the standout. I think they were a very strong team before their recruitment, and then you look at some of the players they brought in, and you have to say they've only got stronger. So for me, Armadale will be up there. I look at Dalkeith's pre-season, 2-1 win over Edinburgh Uni, 2-0 win over Leith, narrow 2-1 defeat over Edinburgh City. Again, I don't know how strong these teams were in terms of what players they brought, but you mentioned experience. Dalkeith have been there. They weren't too far away last season. They started off really, really well. They were either a win or a lose team. Quite a lot of that last year. You mentioned Stirling Uni, they were 15 wins, 15 losses. bonus, 27 wins, 3 losses, so there wasn't many draws. So I would go with Dalkeith. I'm going to throw Tweedmouth in there.
Okay.
Just to make it interesting. I watched them last weekend, and I liked the way they were playing. I loved the way they were knocking the ball about. It's a very difficult pitch down there. That's kind of, I don't know if you can see that hand. That's pretty much accurate how the pitch is. So I'm not saying it's an easy thing for their own team, never mind any opposition. So that's going to be difficult. West Calder, you mentioned in there as well. So that would be my top 3. I'm going to go Armadale, Dalkeith, and just for some reason Tweedmouth. It's quite impressive.
Okay. I really like Kevin Tweedmouth, and I think as you say, a very attractive style of play that he's got there. I think they'll do pretty well. They might be kind of mid-table. I think they'll be fairly happy with. I think Armadale for me just are the standout side here. Like I think they were very unlucky. Edinburgh South went on a really good run last season and just pipped them, but there was a point in the season where I thought Armadale would be second. Like they look to be, again, the firepower, and they've added to that, and I just think they're the standout side in this league. I think they'll win it. Dalkeith, I think, are better than what they've shown. I think they've added pretty well. You obviously said about consistency. They had 13 wins and 15 losses, and yet 41 points. I think they'll be bitterly disappointed with that last season. I think they're better than that. I think Dalkeith will be better than 8th place, and I think they will be in amongst the promotion hunt. And the other team I went for, I'm with Grant on Easthouses. I think Easthouse have a good chance of promotion. They're a side that I think needed a year just to kind of get. They obviously had a bit of a difficult kind of squad mix up last season. They begin to have found their groove. They had a really good end to the season as well. I can see Easthouse has been in amongst, but again, you've got Edinburgh College. I don't know a lot about them. Stirling Uni again had a lot of good results last season. I don't think the relegated sides will do very much in that league. But I think the promotion side, so I think Bathgate can solidify themselves pretty well. I think West Calder, the firepower they've got, Andy Jackson will score a barrel load of goals in this league, like he did it last season. But such an impressive talent in terms of at this level. I'm going to go Armadale, Dalkeith, and Easthouses, but I wouldn't be surprised. Tweedmouth could be good, Stirling Uni could be good, and I think obviously Bathgate and West Calder are teams to watch. At the other end of the table, Grant, who's in the bottom 3?
Well, I maybe have a better idea after Saturday, but because of the issues that we've said earlier about momentum going the other way, Vale of Leithen are really struggling, I think. And it will be interesting to see if they can arrest that kind of slump, because sometimes it's impossible when you get in that kind of free fall mode. So I've got them coming down. I'm not convinced Hart Hill will do as well as, obviously, again, they finished third in our league. They started well last season in a sticky spell in the middle. To be fair, the coaching staff that came in there, again, a year previous, a bit like Gordon when he came into Bathgate, that's changed things around a little bit for them too, and they got promotion, and I kind of thought they would. We played them end of the season, and they beat us 2-1, and they were really up for that game. But I think, depending on how they've changed their side around, and I don't know who they've brought in, they might struggle. And I actually think Edinburgh College might struggle as well, because, again, they flirted with it a little bit last year. Again, they've got a good setup, and they play nice football. We played them 2 seasons ago in the 3rd division, and looked really good. Again, the Orium suits them. Again, they've got a big park there. And that might actually be a telling thing for them, because that might be harder for other teams to play on that. Not to play on the surface, but to play on such a big park and play their normal game on it. But I think they might struggle again. So Hart Hill, Vale of Leithen, and Edinburgh College for me.
Okay. What about yourself, Ryan? Where are we with the 2nd division, the bottom 3?
I've went with this momentum thing. It's a word in football, isn't it? I hate myself for saying this, right? I've went down and watched Vale of Leithen a couple of times already in pre-season. I think the guys there do an absolutely tremendous job. I mean, how easy would it be just to go, you know what, we've no hope of staying up, let's just call it a day and get all the results get turned away. It's so hard to get, player recruitment down there is a distance and has to just up from along the A7 there, and just even to get across the A7 over to Innerleithen as a traipse. So with regret, I'm going to say Vale of Leithen. For the same reason, I'm going with Oakley.
Okay.
And again, you look back a couple of years ago, and that was a team that was looking up and wanting to push into the top league. It's just not happened. My third team, it is difficult. I went with Peebles, and the reason I went with Peebles was I watched Lochgelly against Peebles on Saturday. Got the first half of that game, more the first hour of that game. And Lochgelly played some nice stuff, knocked the ball around really, really well. And I think the goals that they lost, I'm going, that they'll struggle in that league. Having said that, though, you look at how well they did last year, I could be totally wrong with them. It is difficult, but that's my bottom three I'm going for.
Okay. Vale of Leithen, I'm with you. I think that momentum thing we've all mentioned, I think it is really difficult for them to attract players. And I think there was a game last season where they 2-0 up at one point against, I think it was maybe Whitburn, I can't remember, somebody can remind me. And I think that they were 2-0 up and you're thinking this is a massive result, and then they kind of lost it, and then you just felt like that's probably their highlight of their season, been 2-0 up, and they obviously couldn't get the job done. I feel for them though, because like you talk to them, they're always really, really good giving you kind of responses and things like that in terms of trying to get any sort of information. So I wish them all the best, and I hope they can find a level. But I do think it will be another difficult season for them. A team that I think I really like the fact that they've managed to get promotion, but I can see them struggling is Hart Hill. I think the level of player they've got is obviously depending on, like, they do obviously have a different attraction of player. We know that. Like, they've done very, very well in that league last season to get up. If they can stay there, I'm not so sure, but I think they're a side that I never ever thought would be able to get promotion. So fair play to them, and I hope they don't get relegated, but I can see them being in amongst that. And in between Oakley and Coldstream, they're my other third team. I think Oakley, I think if you were to say Oakley or Vale of Leithen, who's more likely to stay up, it'd be Oakley all day long. They seem to have some good players, like good players who maybe are at the level now. So I do think they're Coldstream. I don't know a lot about them, to be honest. I'm one of the very few sides that I don't really know anything about, and always going to try and look for the results. Don't know a lot about the players, so can see them. They stayed up last season. They obviously stayed up. They get results in early, I'm pretty sure. I think they get big wins at the start that kind of kept them up. So they're a side I can see maybe struggling this season. But again, another really competitive league. Looking forward to that. Third division, I think could be very interesting this season. I think you could throw a blanket there and pick about 6 or 7 teams that could go up. Grant, who's your top 3?
Well, yeah, again, reasons for that. And again, it's a momentum thing. Two Bryans have done a fantastic job at Stonyburn. And again, that pitch is a big advantage to them too, when it's dry anyway. Because they had to play, obviously we know last season they had to play half a league card in about what seemed about 3 weeks. And I don't know how they got through that. But yeah, they were starting to get results and starting to get a structure about them. I always think Fauldhouse, again, depending on if they've kept 1 or 2 of their experienced players, I always think they're a side that promise a lot and should be doing better. And I think this would be the year that they will. And I'm really torn between, played Lochgelly last week, and we played them 3 times last year, and they've improved over the course of the season considerably. Although we won 5-1 in the pre-season friendly a week past Saturday, that flattered Bathgate, to be fair. We took our chances. Lochgelly actually put a lot into the game, and again, I think it was maybe their first game. So I think they'll do well, but I think, Darren and James also do a great job at Pumferston, and again, it's a very young team. I think one of these years, if they can get a few experienced players in to support these young boys, I think they will also. So there's your 4. There's 3 from 4 there, which, I'd put my money on.
Okay, break it down to 3 on me.
Down to 3, I'm going to say Lochgelly.
Lochgelly, okay. Ryan, who's your top 3?
Well, I've got top 11 here, actually. So, nah. I agree with what he says about Stonyburn. the advantage of having to play all the games is that it gave folk like me that just would go to any game anywhere the opportunity to go and watch them quite a wee bit. And I was impressed with the setup. I'm impressed with how they improve, even just wee things. I noticed when they were doing paving stones or something like that, and it was like, wow, look at that, that's transformed the look at it. So even just wee things making a big difference. So for me, Stoneyburn will be up there. I'm going to go for Newborough.
Okay.
Totally throwing that momentum out the window. So I'm going to go for Newborough. Again, I had the pleasure of going up and watching them last season, even when they weren't doing too well. I'm looking at them going, I'm loving the football they're playing. Loving the football they're playing. Yeah, listen, defensive-wise, you could argue, but you could say that for a lot of teams. But attacking-wise, they showed me a lot of intent. They showed me that they just wanted to go forward, and I love that. I love an attacking team. So I'm going to go for Newborough, and I was listening very closely to what Grant was saying there about Lochgelly, because I did see Lochgelly on Saturday. I was taken in by the football they were playing, but then I'm looking at the scores and I went 5-1 Bathgate, but then maybe there was a wee bit of Bathgate taking their chances and maybe Lochgelly, maybe not. So that's my top three. I'm just going to stick with that. I will throw in though Linton Hotspur in there. They have brought in some cracking players, and Chris King will get them up that league. It might be a season too early, but a cracking setup. They get a lot of good crowds going to the games, a great management team, and some of the players they're bringing in will improve them. So they'd be my sort of dark horse, if you want.
Yeah, I've Linton are my dark horses as well. I really think they could be pretty good this season. Like I was always told last season, I was asking people what's Linton like. He said keep an eye on next season. Like a lot of people were telling me that keep an eye on Linton for next season. So I think they could be a team to watch. I'm with you in Stoneyburn. I think terrific management team. Really think they could kick on this season. Howick, I think could be pretty good. I think they've got a lot of talent. I think they could be another good manager. A pleasure of having Kenny on the show. And Paul at Lochgelly, I think, has done a good job. I think Stoneyburn, Howick and Lochgelly with my three. Wouldn't put anyone off Falthouse or Pumperson challenging either. Livingston United will be a lot better than they were last season as well. That league is very, very competitive, but if you were to say who's the top three, I'm going to go Stoneyburn, Howick, Lochgelly. Grant, who's bottom three?
Well, I'm hoping you're right there about Livy United, because a lot of the people, involved in running the club, but they desperately need experienced players in that have played at this level. I don't think they've got them just yet. Same with Edinburgh CFC, the community team. Again, lovely people down there, but I just think it's a very, very young team they've got there, and they're just bedding this in. This whole link up with Edinburgh City as well, so I think they'll struggle again. I want to say Linton will do a lot better, and I think they will. I think that, Brian's just mentioned that signing there. I noticed that last week as well. Great setup down there. But I just think this is still only their second season playing at East of Scotland level. And I think, you're playing against teams that have been around a little bit longer. So, yeah, I'm going to put them in the bottom three as well.
Okay. Ryan, who's your bottom three in the third division?
Fairly the sort of same thinking there. I went with Edinburgh Community. I watched them against Newton Grange, right, and they play some lovely football. Even when they were 5-0 down, at one point they were 5-0 down, they're still passing it out from the back. They're not going to change their style, and I like that. I'm not afraid to keep going. But I thought they were a very young team. So I've got to go with them. Very difficult in the catchment area as well, with Spartans and Edinburgh City and all the rest of it. I've went with Edinburgh United. Similar reasons. I know the pre-season they've had a few. I've got a couple of heavy scorelines against them here. I think they've lost. Is it Josh Lamond? I can't for the life remember where he's went. But maybe it might be Preston or one of those clubs.
It's a definite first division club.
Aye, so I've got to think that they'll maybe struggle, and it's a toss-up, to be honest. I'm just pure guesswork. I've just went with Pumperton just because there's been a couple of heavy defeats in there.
Okay.
But that is based on absolutely nothing other than the results in pre-season.
Okay. Edinburgh Community, I'm in there as well. I just think it might take them a bit of time just to find the right type of player. Edinburgh United, I think, had just been free fall. I hope I'm wrong because I've always had good dealings with them. I just think last season they really struggled, and I think they could struggle again this season. And similar to that, I've went with Ormiston.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know about them this season. Like, I think it's such a competitive league, and like sides, I think near enough every side in that league are going to go up the way. I think Ormiston and Edinburgh United could come down the way. Like, can see them really struggling this season. Again, it's such a tough league to call, and don't know. Newbury, I think, could solidify. I think they could be fine. They're probably better than what they showed last season. I think they've actually brought in a couple of good players. I think they'll be fine, but again, I'm probably leaning Ormiston, Edinburgh United, and Edinburgh Community with my bottom three. But I think it's a very, very tough league to assess. But that's been a lot of fun, obviously, doing all the top and bottom three for all four leagues. We'll be frightfully wrong at the end of the season. I know that because we'll be back on and we'll be having a bit of fun of ourselves. Before we wrap up, guys, I want a wee off-the-wall prediction. What do we see happening this season in East of Scotland? Do we see a historic moment taking place? What do you see, Ryan? Give us an off-the-wall prediction for 24-25.
Oh, throw me on the spot. Just because it's topical and just because it happened just a few years ago, I'm going to go for one team, I'm not sure who, to get a really good run in the Scottish Cup. All right, just based on the fact that the Scottish Cup draws right in front of me and I'm looking at it like absolutely.
What's the standout tie?
Well, I'll quickly go through the ones that stand out. You've got Bowness Athletic against Beath.
Yep.
There's a nice kind of east-west, and that's just in the round one draw.
Mm-hmm.
I'll quickly fire down them. There's a few that will stand out for yourself. I think Pollock was one that might interest yourself. Pollock against Darvel.
Yep.
I think that'll be a huge game. There was, for all the distance that you think about travelling in the Scottish Cup, you've got East Houses against Newton Grange.
Okay.
It's literally about a mile distance between the grounds, so that'll be some game. You're looking at that one. Just trying to figure out. There was a few other standout ones. Preston against Irvine Meadow, that would be huge. Auchinleck going to Haddington, or can you see it? Yeah, Haddington, Auchinleck. Some tie there as well. I mean, Tayport Dundee North End, again another one where you're looking at it and going, you could throw me at any of those games, and I would absolutely love that. But I quite fancy a team to do tremendously well in the Scottish Cup, maybe get to a later stages, maybe a quarter final. I think that would be good for the game.
Okay, interesting. Grant, what's your prediction for the season? Give us something that will jump out.
Again, I think it's something similar to what Ryan's saying. I think what we want is the East of Scotland League to really promote itself. It's not the poor relation, obviously, but I think it's, when you look at the West of Scotland League, there's always this kind of parochial view that they are, miles ahead of everything else, and the same with the Midland League. I mean, Dundee North End, Ryan mentioned them there, they won about 40 games last year, and they were very impressive in the tournament we had pre-season, but still didn't beat St Roch's to win the trophy. But I think if we could get a team that has a run, like Ryan says, a team that has a run in the Cup and makes a name for itself. I mean, I think Roxburgh last year did that for us, and getting promoted to the Lowland League. So for me, I would like to see something similar, and a team really starting to stick out. And obviously, hopefully, we want to watch some really entertaining games as we go through the season.
Yeah. The one I had was Bowness Athletic going for the preliminary round to the fourth round. I was jumping about my head. I said that to somebody today, and they said wishful thinking, but I don't see it.
If they get past Beath, at home, that'll be. Yeah,
I don't see them being. I mean, we saw last season, like, there was three sides. I think Genefield obviously doing what they did. Dunbar, Broxburn did so well last season in that competition. I really think an East of Scotland team can kick on and get into the fourth round. I'm hoping they can. That has been an absolute pleasure, guys. I say all the best for 24-25. It's been an absolute pleasure to go through that. First of all, Ryan Kelly, thank you very much indeed.
Brilliant. No, thanks for having me on, pal. I'm looking forward to the hat-trick ball.
Absolutely. And to Grant as well, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you again, Scott. Nice to speak to you, Ryan.
Always a pleasure. Thanks very much, folks. All the best for 24-25. And we'll be back soon. Okay, thank you.